Now let's talk about controllers. So there's another option in JMeter, which is controller. So there are a bunch of controllers that are given to us. So most of the times you will be just using the loop controller. Let's have the loop controller, and you will be having the transaction controller. It all depends on what exactly are we trying to achieve. So loop controller is nothing. You can have multiple requests in this controller. For example, let's say if I have this loop controller here, or right underneath request 2, I duplicate request 2, I put the request 2 in the loop controller, and I put the loop as 2. So what it will do is it will take this as one transaction. So all the requests within this controller will be taken as one transaction. And if I say 2, that means each user will do 2 loops of this specific request. Okay, so similarly, okay, this transaction controller is nothing, but in case if you want to group multiple requests into one controller, let's say you have like 2 requests that you want to put it in the transaction controller. Okay, so now this transaction controller, it means it is this transaction controller as an individual means it has 2 requests in it. Okay, so let's say if I run this right now, you guys will see what happens. So over here you can see the transaction controller was been called. Okay, so within this controller, it has 2 requests in it. Okay, now we're gonna change all the request names. Now let's see what happens. It will give us more clear picture. Already, so you guys can see over here, the very first got request was fired, then the second request, then the third request, then the fourth request, and then this because of this loop controller, it was fired twice for the same user. Since we have one user, it it was called in a loop, but everything happened in a sequential manner. Okay, so let's say if we don't want to see these results of these 2 transactions individually, but we want to see uh, but we just want to see how did the transaction controller did as a whole. uh, that means uh, how did this entity do as one individual. So what I mean is, if request 3 fails, the transaction controller will fail, even if request 4 will pass. Or if request 4 fails, the transaction controller as a whole will fail, even the request 3 did pass. Okay, so and if we do not want to see the inside request and responses of transaction controller, then what we can do is we can just say generate as a parent sample. So what it will do, it will not tell us what exactly happened within the requests unless it is failing. If it fails, yes, then it will tell us which request failed, but until then it will generate that as a parent sample. Let's see how it works. Let's see how it works. Alrighty, so now you guys can see it has a parent sample. We can see it. If you go to the aggregator report, it will tell us just how it did as a whole sample or as a parent, but it will not tell us how each and every individual requests within this transaction controller performed. And this result is going to be combination or addition of both the requests, third and fourth. Similarly, it is going to be here as well.